Okay, here we are. We are at 11 o'clock sharp. I'm Dr. Evan Osar with the Institute for Integrative Health and Fitness Education. Thank you so much for joining me on this webinar. In these webinar series, I'm bringing in my colleagues, my friends, the industry leaders around topics that help you develop and build your business, and really to create more purpose in what you do around your mindset, around how you teach exercise and movement, and also around your business. So as we talk about business, one of the industry leaders around business is my colleague, Phil Kaplan. I first met Phil probably about 20 years ago. He was presenting a seminar on business back in Chicago here at my buddy's gym, and he was presenting with Juan Carlos Santana. So I don't know if you remember that event way back, it was literally about 20 years ago.
I do, and it was in the winter, if I remember.
Yeah. So
we did Boston, New York, and Chicago, and we live in Florida. We kind of forget.
Yeah.
January, yes, I remember.
Correct. However, that event really changed my life and really changed my perspective on business, because at that point, I was just a brand new chiropractor. I was working part-time I was still working as a certified personal trainer. I was starting my chiropractic business. And Phil was really the first person that I saw discuss the importance of business and developing your business like a business and not just running it like a personal trainer. So Phil and I work and consult with the Medical Fitness Network. We're both on the Medical Fitness Education Foundation. Phil's presenting out there in Seattle next weekend. Unfortunately, we have a conflicting conference in Florida next week, so I can't be out there, but I've gotten to know Phil quite well over the last couple of years. And he shared with me his brand new program called Profit, Power, and Permission. And one of our goals here at the Institute for Integrative Health and Fitness Education is to help you make 2019 your best year ever. So I'm super excited that Phil shared this course with me, and I've been working through this program. And the last story I just want to share with you is when I first started in practice, I started working through your modules, Phil. And in the first module, it really resonated with me because in my first year of practice, I remember I was working as a personal trainer, as I mentioned, and I remember I was charging, like, this is no joke. I was going to people's houses and I was charging $45 a session to go to people's houses. And I remember I raised my rates, and I was afraid to raise my rates. I raised my rates to $55 an hour, but I said to the clients, if you buy a 10-pack, it's only $45 a session. So even though I raised my rates, they actually didn't pay any more because I was afraid to actually charge them more. So when I listened to the first module of your series, and as a special surprise, where Phil has graciously offered to give away that first module because it will change your mindset about your business, about how you think about yourself as a fitness professional and professional versus a certified personal trainer, and the space that currently exists for individuals like you, part of our community, that are looking to up-level your skill set, your mindset, and reach an audience that needs, wants, and will pay you for your expertise. So without further ado, thanks for joining us, Phil. Thanks for being on. I'm super looking forward to this webinar and information you're going to share.
Yeah, me too. You know, Evan, it's interesting because you and I had a brief chat yesterday, and you were sharing that, and you said that trainers charge $125, or they say they do, but they sell a 10-pack for $750, so they're really charging $75. And inside, I was laughing because when I started, I charged $15 a session to go to people's homes. And believe it or not, it was harder for me to ask for that $15 then than it is to ask for $300 today. And I could give you a whole list of reasons why, but what happened with you is you went through a mindset shift. You were charging $45 and you had this fear. You wouldn't have acknowledged it was fear, but it was. So you said, okay, what he said makes sense. I'm going to raise my rates, but I'm going to do it in a way that's safe. I'm not going to hurt anybody. I'm going to say, hey guys, I'm raising my rate to $55, but you don't have to pay it. You just buy a 10-pack. So really, your mindset, even at that point, held you back. So if you look at yourself now, you want to say to other trainers, man, I know how you feel because I felt the same way.
Absolutely.
And I think more than anything else, you know, we don't have a whole weekend to share information right now. We've got like an hour or roughly an hour. More than anything else, I just want to create that little shift in mindset. So Evan, you can redirect me. I'm not locked into a PowerPoint here, but let's just talk so that we can facilitate some of those mindset shifts. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I'd love to do that.
Okay, good. So I'm going to bring up my presentation, right?
Yep, and you're going to share your screen.
I'm going to share
One
my
more thing
screen.
before we get started with that, Phil.
Yeah.
If you guys, as you guys are listening to this presentation, if you have any questions, you're all on mute right now, just so you can hear Phil and I. Just slide down to the bottom of your page, and you'll see a chat box. Type your questions in, and as they come up, if they're relevant at the time, I'll stop Phil, and Phil will answer the question. If not, at the end, we'll leave time for a question and answer, so that way you can get all your questions answered. And we want to make sure that this information is really relevant to you and your business.
Good. So are you now seeing my screen?
I am.
All right. So now you should be seeing the old paradigm, correct?
Yep, I got it.
Okay. So this is where we started, Evan. We started with this idea that we want to be professionals, so we get certified, right? That's what we do because that's what everybody said.
Correct.
And that's kind of the way it's gone for most personal trainers, is they do what they do because it's what the people tell them that we do, not because anybody ever sat down and thought about, how do I really get an optimal return? How do I really build reward? How do I really build a future? We just do what we were told we're supposed to do because it's what people have done. So you get certified, you go work in a health club for a short period of time, you don't get paid well, but the idea is you're creating relationships, you acquire clients, and then this is where the breakdown immediately starts. Having been both a personal trainer working in a health club and a health club owner who's employed personal trainers, inevitably there's that moment in time that the personal trainer says, now I'm ready to go out on my own. Mm-hmm. So for some reason, they believe the right thing to do is steal all the clients of the health club because they've trained them, right? So having been on both sides, I completely understand, but even in that, it's a flawed model. They're also told to do everything they can to build business. We're told word of mouth is the best, but they hand out business cards, they make up flyers, everything we can do to build our client base. And a huge mistake the trainers make notoriously is once they get to a place that they have enough clients or enough income, they stop marketing. And then they lose 2 clients, and then all of a sudden they frantically market again. So they're never building a consistent income. They're always wanting for the next step that doesn't show up unless they learn how to take that step. They also look at the market, and they base their fees upon what the market will bear, which I have to say is a huge mistake. Because if I'm looking at the field of personal trainers and looking around my neighborhood and seeing what trainers charge, and if the average rate is $75 a session, and then I start to look at the trainers and their education and their commitment and their willingness to deliver results, I will fast come to realize it's very different than mine. They don't have the same level of commitment that I do. They don't have the same level of ability to deliver results that I do. So why, as an extraordinary trainer, and I'm saying me, but I really mean all of you, why should you limit your income to what the market pays lesser trainers than you? And then at that point, most trainers are making enough money to pay their bills, but they never leap over that hurdle and find a way to really break out. So, no, Evan, this is what you do now. This is what you teach, and this is what I want to talk about today. It's not enough to get certified. In fact, even today, there are over 80 certifications, of which maybe 7 are credible in terms of a personal fitness trainer certification. So getting certified puts you at the very ground level. Beyond certification, which only demonstrates that you could pass a test, you really need to acquire expertise. If you can talk about the muscular system and you can talk about hypertrophy, sure, you have a baseline level of expertise, but I'm suggesting if you want to be at the top of your game, you have to choose your expertise based on your ICA, which is your ideal client avatar. So I think any personal trainer ready to launch should invest a good amount of time in thinking, in analyzing, in deciding who is their ideal client avatar. Because as long as you become a trainer for anyone who wants a trainer, you become subject to the public perception of a trainer. Evan, is that making sense?
Absolutely. 100% agree.
And once you find your avatar, and Evan, I know that this is you all over the place, you really have to ask the question, how do I help that ideal client avatar overcome pain? It's interesting that you mentioned Juan Carlos, because we've done a lot of seminars and tours together. And one of the things that he always took issue with is I would tell personal trainers that if you really want to influence somebody, you've got to get them to reveal their pain. And he would say, trainers hate that. We don't want to talk to people about pain. And I said, well, that's a weakness in trainers, because we're not causing the pain, but how can we fix it if we fail to identify it, right? So when we look at these three, gain your expertise, learn your avatar, and overcome pain, this is the beginning of breaking out of the stuck paradigm with its own ceiling on income and breaking free and literally charging whatever you believe you're worth. So when I talk about pain, I know that you and your students address low back pain quite a bit, and for very good reason. It's all over the place. It's everybody.
Right,
you
sure.
walk into an office with 15 employees and say, who has back pain? 5 of them are going to raise their hands, right?
Right.
And I don't think you're making the promise to remedy the pathology. I think you're making the promise that we're going to make you feel better, move better, and restore function. Is that accurate?
Correct.
So we are still personal trainers, and Evan, I know you have a greater credential than that, but if you don't, you're a personal trainer. So don't go beyond your scope of practice. Don't start to develop this belief that we can fix people's disc issues. But if we can get them out of pain, that's what they want. I mean, if somebody with a herniated disc is in pain every single day and is limited, and they're told that you could live the rest of your life with this herniated disc and never experience pain, isn't that what they would choose? Of course it is. In fact, that's why they're trying first Advil and then Aleve and then peppermint oil and then injections. The whole goal is to get out of pain. Evan, you agree with that?
Absolutely. And Phil, can I just stop you just for a moment?
Please.
Because you're talking right now, specifically, you're discussing physical pain, like low back pain, osteoarthritic hip, neck or shoulder issues. But this also refers to a pain like I need to accomplish a goal, like to lose weight, and that's my pain. I need to lose weight because of metabolic syndrome, because of, my diabetes is out of control, because I just feel unhealthy, I look unhealthy, and I can't do the things I want to. So it's not just the physical pain of like low back pain or hip pain. It's also that sort of mental pain of things that you want to accomplish. Is that correct?
1000%. In fact, if you look at this imagery, the idea is, let's just say a 42-year-old male has been married for 20 years and is suddenly going through a divorce. And now he looks at his body in the mirror and goes, oh my God, I have to go out and meet women looking like this. So he has a memory of what it used to be, of how he used to look, how he used to feel. And that creates immense pain. There's a tension there. He's feeling like every time he looks in the mirror, this hurts. So yes, when a young parent is playing basketball with his kid and he can't keep up because he's winded, that's immense pain. So yes, I started with physical pain, but I'm going to say 100% of the time, your ideal client avatar will be in pain, and a small percentage of the time, the pain will be physical. A large percentage of the time, the pain will be emotional, and that pain runs deep, and that's the driving force that will get them to connect with you if, and this is a big if, they believe you are the vehicle that will get them to the desired outcome. I'm going to say that again. If they believe that you are the vehicle, not if they believe that you're the best trainer in the world, that has nothing to do with it. If they believe that you are the best vehicle to get them out of pain, they will say yes to whatever you're asking. So I describe my present programs as Transgenesis program. I'm not asking you to use that term, but I'll tell you where that comes from. Trans means to travel from, or to travel across, or to travel to a different destination. Genesis means beginning. So Transgenesis is traveling to a new beginning. And that's the mindset that I try to instill in people is you're so focused on your pain and where you are now and how things were yesterday. We've got to get you to connect with what the future is going to look like. We have to bring you to a new beginning. Not to get biblical here, but in order to get to a new beginning, You have to leave where you are now because people are very stuck. They're stuck in their misery. They're stuck in commiserating. They're stuck in their thought patterns. They're stuck in their habits. They're stuck in their excuses. So before they get to the transgenesis, they have to have an exodus, leaving behind what they have now. So this is the great power that you, as a high-level personal trainer, have, is you can get them from the point they're at now to the place they want to be. You can help them experience an exodus from the pain and a genesis, an entirely new beginning. So how much should a trainer charge? It comes down to what is the value of that? What is the value of taking somebody who's in pain away from that pain? Better yet, what is the value of taking them away from that pain and taking them to a new beginning where they are not only out of pain, but they are elated? Their entire emotions have changed, thus their outlook has changed, their behaviors change, and their outcomes change. So what is the value of that? When we can answer that question, I'm not suggesting trainers should charge a lot of money. I know people have heard me erroneously and told me that that's what I said. That's never what I said. What I say is there should be a fair value exchange. So a fair value exchange means I'm trading something of value in exchange for energy in the form of money. We're making a fair exchange. I'm giving you what you want, and you're giving me money that is equal to that benefit. Fair value exchange.
Exactly.
This is so important for you guys to grasp, because if somebody says, well, trainers shouldn't charge more than $50, based on what? What is the trainer delivering? If I have a rock and I have gold, is it equal because they're both stones? Of course not. So if you think in terms of the fair value exchange, it will make sense that the more value you deliver, the more that you should charge.
Phil, can I just stop you real quick?
Please.
I have a perfect example of that. I literally just had a friend email, a colleague that's been through our certification program. She's doing great work down in Houston, Texas with the older population. She got a Facebook message. This fellow personal trainer was blasting her, saying, you're ripping people off, you're charging too much. How dare you say that people, older people are frail and need what you have to offer. And it really speaks exactly to what you're talking about right now. It's that trainer's mindset is, how dare you to charge what you feel like your value is, even though I was down in her studio and I had tons of her clients, not just one or two, but almost all her clients coming up to me, telling me how much my friend Jackie, my colleague Jackie, has changed their lives. A woman said, right. I could barely walk. I was walking with a cane. I can walk without a cane. I'm not walking perfectly, but I'm walking without a cane. I have better balance. I have better confidence. When you change and transform people's lives because of your skill set, and you value that skill set, and you solve people's pain, I can't get out of the house. I can't walk. I'm afraid of falling. You should charge what you're worth. And I love that's what you're talking about right now.
And, whoever the trainer was who attacked her in that way, it's very clear that he has his own imposed limits. How will he ever make the kind of money that a trainer is capable of if he himself doesn't see the value in his craft, in his offering, in his practice? Correct. So this is why I say it all comes down to mindset. Now, mindset, of course, without the skill set is nothing. Mindset without the action is nothing. But mindset is the variable that will determine how far people will go. So you just described two people who are on very opposite courses. So yeah, that was a great illustration. I appreciate that. So consider that if there is value to your work, which your colleague obviously knows there is, the more value you deliver, the more reward you deserve. This is not specific to personal trainers. This is specific to life. If my air conditioner is broken, as it was a few days ago, and somebody comes in and they go, we're going to do a whole analysis and we're going to charge you only $150 and we're going to see what we can do and we're going to give you a discount on Freon. If somebody else shows up and says, I'm going to charge you 5 times that, but I'm going to fix your air conditioner in 10 minutes, I'm happily paying 5 times more than to sit in a house without air conditioning for weeks while they try to figure it out. So if a trainer can get somebody out of the pain that plagues them, there's an extreme value. That doesn't mean now there's an extreme value to all trainers. And
Correct.
that's what I want you guys to understand. You have an opportunity to stand out because this field is built on a platform of mediocrity. The barrier of entry is so very low in this field that there are plenty of people calling themselves personal trainers, and honestly, their value is very low. So with this line of thinking, the more money you acquire, the more value you've delivered. Evan, I used to speak at many of the conferences, the fitness conferences, the personal training conferences, and there were really big audiences. And I really felt great about doing that because I kind of cracked the code. I mean, I went through a period of time where I couldn't pay my bills. I was broke. I would eat in the happy hour buffet because if you buy a beer and nurse it, you could eat the meatballs for free because I didn't have any money. But I figured a lot of things out. I had really good mentors, not necessarily in this field. And then I was happy to share this with personal trainers. And as I know, you know, sometimes you speak and they all fill out the evaluation and they go 5, great, best speaker, and you're very complimented by that. But then there's the one that kills you, right? Like you might get 499 great ones, and then there's one. And for me, the one would be all he cares about is money.
Correct.
No, obviously this person doesn't know me, but to sit and listen to everything I shared and decide that all I care about is money, it's clearly a complete misrepresentation of who I am and what I do. Correct. But this is what I want you guys to understand. There's no shame in acquiring a lot of money. If you only get paid for bettering the lives of others and you have a lot of money, what does that mean? It means you've bettered a lot of lives. Correct. So if you are going to earn above the market norms, then you can't be like the other trainers.
Correct.
And I know, many people who gravitate toward this field, they like affiliation, they like to connect, they like to be friends. All of that is great, but don't limit yourself by looking at somebody else's potential and assuming that's yours. Correct. The more money you have, the more power you have to do more great things for great people. Honestly, you said, I think earlier that there was criticism because people are old and they can't afford a personal trainer, right? So here's the challenge. If we choose a demographic, an avatar, where people can't afford us, it's a lose-lose.
Correct.
And that's honest because I've done it. We've all done it. We've trained people for free and they didn't value our services and they didn't stick to it, right? We've all seen that.
Absolutely.
But if your heart goes out to people because you're an altruist and you go, no, I'm going to help them, I'm going to charge less than I'm worth, then you never earn enough to get to a place where you can get on a plane and do a seminar in a city for the underprivileged or for cancer survivors. When you have money, you have a greater freedom to help more people. So I'm sharing this not because I'm all about money, because I want you guys to step into your power. And when
Can I just stop you just for a moment there? And so you're making a lot of great points. And what's cool about what you're saying is if you read the best business books about just how to run a business, like one of my favorite business books shares the exact same message. So Good to Great by Jim Collins. I'm sure you're familiar with that book. Sure. It's a book that everyone should read. One of the things he talks about, what makes a great company shift from good to great. So whether you're a personal trainer, whether you're running a Fortune 500 company, is you have to choose a market where you can actually make money in it. Because you could have the best widget, so to speak, but if there's no market for your widget or your widget is so expensive that nobody can afford it, then it's an unsustainable business model. Or if your widget is too cheap, so you have to sell so many to make a profit. Again, right. Unsustainable model. So you have to choose a market or a group of individuals and avatars you're discussing that can actually afford what you feel your value is. And then in turn, you can do your altruistic work. You can do your volunteer work. You can go travel, like you said, to underprivileged communities, whether it be in our own country or in other countries, and donate money or donate your time. That's what the money allows you to do.
Yeah, Emin, I had the opportunity to go with some doctors from the University of Maryland to their inner city and do some talks for kids. I'm not lying to you when I tell you they never saw broccoli. I'm not kidding. I mean, they know ramen noodles, but it's really amazing how much need there is. But in order to be able to do that, if that's where your heart goes, then you've got to have enough money, because money is the energy that empowers you to do these things and not come home and go, oh my God, how am I going to pay the bill? So thank you for reinforcing that.
For sure.
And Good to Great is a book everybody should read. Absolutely.
Yes.
So when we look at, is there a formula for this? I'm going to say yes, there is. Confidence is vitally important. But false confidence or bravado or a trainer who thinks he's great because he gets a lot of clients, it's not going to take anybody very far if they don't have the competence. So when you have both of those things, when you have the competence and the confidence, you now have the ability to make a bold promise and a compelling offer. I'm not asking everybody here to do this, but I built my career on a guarantee. My guarantee was, if for any reason in the world you don't find extreme value in what I deliver, I'll give you back every penny you ever paid. I know how scary that sounds, and I didn't do it out of the gate. It took me time to get to that. First, there were conditional guarantees. If you're unhappy with any session, I'll pay you back for that session. But what I realized is, when I had the confidence to know that I can change people's lives for the better, I was willing to get very bold with my promise and my offer. When you have a bold promise and a compelling offer, you get good at getting prospects to say yes. So if you have a weak offer, if you go, yeah, I'll show up at your house 3 times a week and you give me $75 a session, you're not going to get a lot of people to say, oh yeah, I absolutely want that. My dream is to pay $75 3 times a week. Clearly you haven't hit the emotional button with that. But if you're able to say, within 4 weeks, I guarantee your pain will be diminished, and if you stay the course, within 90 days, you'll be moving differently, life will return to the way it used to be. Now somebody's going, I want this, and then you can make a compelling offer. So if you have those combination of traits, you then will have a high capture potential, meaning you speak to 10 people, 8 of them will say yes.
And I think you make a, can I just stop you one more time, Phil?
Yeah.
I think you make another good point, and maybe you'll touch on this later, but I just want to bring it up now. If you're going to touch on it later, just stop me. Is we're used to selling packages of, say, 5 or 10 sessions, and it's sort of a bad business model, and I've done it. I know you've done it probably when you started out. Most of us have done something like that. But the problem with that model is, number one, you're likely not going to change them a lot in 5 or 10 sessions, especially if they're coming to you with chronic issues. Yeah, you're going to change them and transform them, but you're not going to make significant changes. And number two, after those 5 or 10 sessions, you have to put energy into reselling them.
Selling them again.
So it's again, it's not a great business model versus saying, hey, if you want to make massive changes in your life and you have this, you're finding out your client's pain, is you need to sell them on long-term solutions, whether it be nutrition, whether it be to get out of pain, whether it be to improve balance or to get better function in one's life. It's not a 5 or 10 session issue or a solution. It's a 3-month, 6-month, year-long process, and that way the person sees the process, the system that you're taking them through, versus just, hey, you know what, we're gonna have a workout and hopefully you'll feel better and feel like that I provided you enough value for you to buy another 5 or 10 sessions. Yeah.
And also people are doing a countdown. They know how many sessions they have left. So in their mind, they're thinking, okay, I only have 3 more. I only have 2 more. They're not so excited to write another check or give you their credit card again.
Correct.
So what I've learned to do from having made that mistake for many years is I and all of my trainers charge people a fee that recurs on a recurring scheduled basis. In other words, it's $125 a session as long as you commit to an every. So it could be every Wednesday at 2 o'clock. It could be the second Monday of the month at 4. It can be every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 3. But we never go back to a calendar and say, when is your next session? It's always recurring. They give us 1 session paid in advance. We call that a retainer. So before they start, they pay $125. And then when they show up for their first session, they're billed $125. Then when they show up for their second session, they're billed 125. Now, I know people will criticize that and go, no, it's so much better to have a package because you're locking people in. Number one, not true. Because
not
I've
true
had
at all.
many times where people have wanted to cancel, during their package.
Yep.
But number two, here's what I love about this. All I have to do, and this is what I teach my trainers, is if you get every client to get excited about only one more session, they never leave.
Exactly.
So we never have to resell them. And there are a couple of questions that we ask during the intake that are really pivotal to this. The first one is, assuming you get everything you want out of this relationship, what specifically will be different in your life 6 months from now? 6 months is important because we're not saying 4 weeks from now. We're not saying 10 sessions from now.
Right, exactly.
So they're going to a place where they're starting to think, they're starting to future pace, and they're getting excited about the 6 months. Now, we don't stop there. After they give us an answer, the next question is, how about a year from now? And then they'll tell us more. So psychologically, they're starting to buy into the idea that I can just get better and better and better, and it's going to take time. So
exactly.
I'm hoping these points are being received because just what we've spoken about so far is enough to change the financial future of anybody here.
Absolutely. And the one thing I hated, and again, we've already said it, but I think it bears repeating, is trainers hate selling. I hate selling. Most trainers hate selling. And if you're going on packages 5 to 10 sessions, you have to keep reselling, and then you're holding your breath, hoping the person gives you their credit card again or check again. But when you start from the beginning, what is your goal, or what does 6 months look like for you? What does 1 year look like for you? You're not selling them on a couple sessions, or do you feel a good sweat or good burn after your workout? You're saying this is going to be a process, and the process is going to take minimally 6 months. And more likely 1 year. But you use the word future pace. Future pace just means, what does the future look like for this individual? What does the ideal future look like for this individual? That's right. That's the pain that you're solving for them. That's their solution, that they're telling you what they want. And then you can decide right then and there, can I deliver that solution? Because if you can't, then that's not a good relationship. But if you can, if you're confident you can deliver that solution, then there's no reason that you shouldn't be signing this client up for easily 6 months or a year. And now you're not trading, you're not trying to chase them down for their next payment. You got a credit card on file. You got them locked in for the next 6 months.
Beautiful segue into my next line. So you said something that's really pivotal. If somebody has a goal or a desired outcome and they express it, and you honestly confront it and say, I can't do that, then it is irresponsible of you to take on the client. Correct. Unless you can agree upon a different outcome, right? But that's rare, because most of the time you're attracting your avatar based on what you know you can do to help people, right?
Correct.
So thrill ability, the ability to thrill people, is the next variable. If I have a high capture potential, if out of every 10 people I present to, 8 of them say yes, and then I have a high thrill ability where I know the client at this point. Even though I've never met the individual, I've met them hundreds of times before, different faces, different names, but I've met this person before. If I know I can thrill them, then I have a super high retention. The clients don't leave, and a very low attrition. So this is the way to build your financial future. This is the way to build a business, not just doing what trainers do because it's what trainers do.
Correct.
And if you have high retention and a hungry market with the high perception of what the cure is worth, that's where prosperity comes from. So this is a really simple formula. It begins with competence. You develop the confidence. You need to create a bold promise, a compelling offer. You get really good at delivering results. And then you continue to tap into the market. And there's really no limit. When I say that, I mean it. That's sincere. But it comes down to what we do for people. And if we are thinking of our job as taking people through workouts, then the value is very low. There are many elements to what we do and what we have to do if we're going to really bring about change. And the true key to what you earn is what, not necessarily what you believe you're worth. Of course, that's an important prerequisite, but ultimately what the client believes you're worth. And if you're selling workouts, those aren't worth very much because they could get a trainer for $15 a session to take them through workouts. Ultimately, what you want to make the promise of delivering is a thrilling outcome. How would the marketplace that you're targeting value the outcome? Now, when I said you have to choose, you have to decide who is your avatar, you're going to pick that out avatar from one of four markets. If we look at the population, we relate it to health or fitness, there is the small slice of the pie that would be the sick and dying. That's not my market. That is truly for medicine. It's not my place. Might some of us have the ability to bring people back to health? Probably. But most cases, if they're at that point that they absolutely need ongoing medical intervention, it's not an ideal client for me. The majority of people in the fitness business, and when I say people, I mean franchises, I mean boot camps, I mean CrossFits, I mean health clubs, I mean YMCAs, and I can keep going. The great majority of them target the fit and the near fit. So I said there are four markets: the sick and dying, the fit and near fit, and then there's the one that I have found incredibly opportune, and that is the unwell market. They're not sick. This is important because when we talk about medical fitness, sometimes trainers run in the other direction because they think we're talking about training people in wheelchairs. The unwell market, these are the people that I'm seeing in the grocery store every day. These are the people walking through the airport and the shopping mall. They don't need to be hospitalized, but they've moved away from health. They've traveled along what I've learned to call the disease continuum. And when we look at that marketplace, we will find there are very consistent maladies. They often have elevations in blood sugar that may be given a name, a diagnosis, prediabetes or diabetes. They often have insulin resistance. They accumulate fat, most often in the abdominal region. They almost always have a hormonal imbalance. And when I say that, people typically think of sex hormones like testosterone and estrogen, but I'm more talking about adrenal hormones and thyroid hormones. They have some level of inflammation. Now, I'm not just pulling this out of nowhere. I've done labs on over 2,000 people as they came into my client base. So when I say these are consistent, these are consistent. Although they are not always full-blown in terms of a diagnosed autoimmune disease, they often display a dysregulated immune system. They have low thyroid output, especially women, high cholesterol, metabolic syndrome. And by the way, the first one at the top on the right side, inflammatory disease, every chronic disease has at its root inflammation. If we have time, I'll talk about that. So if you look at the market and you look at the best target in terms of opportunity, the fit and the near fit are part of a fierce competitive landscape because every health club is going after them.
Right.
The unwell market is where the highest need is, and it is the least pursued by fitness professionals. So where does that market go? They go to the doctor, and there's a medical paradigm. The doctor will typically, first a PA or a nurse practitioner comes in, asks some questions, takes some vitals. The doctor comes in, the assistant downloads everything to him or her, and the doctor spends maybe 4 minutes or 5 minutes questioning, looking at a few things, may order lab tests, and the next step is a diagnosis. The diagnosis needs to have a code because if there isn't a code, insurance won't pay for it. So the job of the doctor has become diagnose and medicate. If the doctor gives advice to somebody who's suffering with insulin resistance, weight loss resistance, abdominal adiposity, any of the things I just mentioned, the advice is eat less and exercise. And that is completely impotent advice. If the doctor even goes there. In most cases, the doctor will prescribe a medication and it's textbook, literally. It's the physician's desk reference. So if you have type 2 diabetes based on lab tests, then the doctor will prescribe glucophage or metformin. If you have a blood pressure issue, they may prescribe lisinopril or a beta blocker. So they find a diagnosis and they provide the drug. Here's what's really amazing, and I want this to hit home for you guys. There isn't a single medication that cures any chronic disease. Not one. There is no medication that cures chronic disease. So think about the absurdity of this. The sea of unwell people are going to the doctor because it's where they believe they should go. The doctor is prescribing medicine that will make a lot of money for the pharmaceutical companies, but has zero hope of curing the condition. Zero. That's absurd. When you get some distance and you take a look at that, you have to acknowledge this is a very flawed and broken system. I'm not pretending to have the answer to fixing the system, but man, do I see opportunity. Because when unmet need, which the entire unwell market has, meets a real solution, there's no competition. When unmet need meets real solution, man, that's the blue ocean. That's the open space. That's the field we need to gravitate toward if we can get comfortable with this being our avatar. Right now, the medical model is based on a fee per service. So if you're going to get an MRI, you pay for it or your insurance pays for it. If you get a lab test, you pay for it or your insurance pays for it. So in a sense, the more the doctor asks you to do, the more money the doctor makes. This has nothing to do with cure. Many of the initiatives, especially if you're being beneath the debates that are taking place right now, is value-based medicine, where the idea is to cure the person, and if in fact the person is cured, they don't have to pay more for tests. There's a major flaw with this, though. The medical field doesn't know how to cure a chronic disease. It's a good concept, but the truth is they haven't demonstrated it because they haven't been trained in it. They've been trained in the diagnose and medicate model. So here is an underserved marketplace, poorly serviced, unnecessarily medicated, and they don't have a solution. That's the unmet need. Guess who has the solution? We do. Now, I don't want you to think that just because you're a trainer, you know how to reverse weight loss resistance or type 2 diabetes. Here, too, there's a need for continuing education. Remember, I said you've got to really become competent. You've really got to learn. You have to acquire knowledge. You have to acquire expertise. So here, I just want you to see the opportunity. But I'm not saying jump right in. I'm saying when you see the opportunity, the next step is develop a specialty. Get educated. If this is true, if everything I said is true, why aren't trainers capitalizing? Because they were raised in an industry with a limited scope. They are raised in an industry that teaches them how to train healthy people. And they are raised in an industry that never teaches them how to do business. So they've never learned to profit. One of the words in the title of the course I'm going to talk about and invite you to participate in is permission. Why permission? I mentioned as an example an MRI. If a doctor tells somebody they need to go for an MRI, the MRI might be $2,500 or $3,500. And the doctor doesn't hesitate to write that up. Go for your MRI. Because from the time that doctor started medical school, he or she had permission. It's already implied. These are the costs of these procedures. This is what we charge for these procedures. So the doctor doesn't go, well, you know what, if you get a lot of MRIs, I'll charge you less. If you pay for 10 today, they never do that because day one, they're given permission to charge whatever the perception is that they should charge. We were never given permission to charge more than $75 a session. Nobody ever sat down with us as an industry and said, guys, let's look at your value. Let's separate out the ones who can really deliver and let's determine what they can charge. So nobody gave us permission, which is why the mindset, as Evan described earlier, exists, where they go, oh, you're charging too much. What a ridiculous assessment of somebody's business model set up to make money. So I'm giving you the ability to give yourself permission. You don't need your industry to tell you. You need to recognize there's an open space for you to step into. What trainers do, based on their credential, is they prescribe safe and effective exercise. They are trained for the most part to work with healthy populations. They often begin working in gyms, and then they may go to train in people's homes or in corporate settings. And then for the ability to make more money, many will gravitate toward group training or boot camps. When we look at what the doctor does, there's no overlap at all. The doctor diagnoses, medicates, examines biochemistry, and then will do whatever intervention they deem necessary. So we look at this and we see a separation. I don't see a separation. I see a middle. I see the place where I operate, and I invite all of you to. You can be a catalyst for change. You don't have to do medical interventions. You don't have to prescribe medications, but you can bring these people the outcome they deserve by being a catalyst and a guide, which means there's more to your connection with people than simply handing them a kettlebell and showing them what to do. You've got to talk to them. You've got to understand. You've got to coach them. You've got to guide them. You have to talk about nutrition. You have to understand where they're making mistakes. But then you become a source of empowerment, and this is an important word, restoration. People want to be restored to the way that they used to be. I'll show you that in a moment. Evan, how are we doing on time? Because as I said, my goal is not to complete a presentation. I just want to change the way your audience thinks for the better. And I'm very happy to just have dialogue moving forward, but I want to make sure I cover a couple of things. So how many minutes do we have left?
So we have about 15 minutes, but I want to leave a little bit of time for question and answer. So if you can finish up in like maybe 5 minutes, and then we can just have a little dialogue to finish it up.
Okay. So when you talk to the unwell avatar and you ask them what they wish, and it's important to get them beyond what they say they want. You know, if you have somebody who's struggled to lose weight and they're 70 pounds overweight, and you go, well, tell me what you want. They go, well, if I could only lose 10 pounds, I'd be happy. That's not true. That's a compromise. That's an absence of belief. They won't be happy if they lose 10 pounds. They want to lose 70 pounds. They just fear saying it because they don't think it's possible. So we want to know what people wish. Again, I'm going to go back to the question I asked earlier. If you get everything you want out of this relationship, what specifically will be different in your life 6 months from now?
Can I just say one thing real quick around that point?
Yeah.
So I would add on to that exactly what you said. Number one, they don't want to lose 10 pounds. What is the pain that they want solved? That's what you have to find out, because if you're not solving that pain, when they lose the 10 pounds, they'll say, hey, thanks a lot. I lost my 10 pounds. I'm out of here. And then sooner or later, they're going to gain that 10 pounds back. Same thing if pain is their issue. If physical pain is their issue, that when you're doing your interviewing, you can't say to them, well, let's focus on your pain. It's got to be bigger than that. People in chronic pain, they're not going to get out of pain in a month, of 2 months. You have to have a bigger goal. Like, what can't you do because of your pain that you'll be able to do when you think that you have no pain? So that way you're helping them develop a strategy to accomplish a concrete goal, not this sort of just nebulous 10 pounds or nebulous, if I just have less pain or no pain, because that's the likelihood of that happening is not great. And you're not teaching them a solution. You're teaching them just a quick fix maybe, and hoping that what you're doing for them works.
Evan, I don't know this to be a fact, but I'm going to guess that this has happened to you. I'm going to guess that more than a few people have said to you at some point in your relationship, thank you for giving me my life back.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is really significant because they don't say, thank you for getting me out of pain. They don't say, thank you for giving me the ability to walk without a cane. They say, thank you for giving me my life back. So you're so on the money when you say it's bigger than that. So when they first express their desire, they'll say things like, oh man, I'm so fatigued. I'm exhausted all the time. I wish I had more energy. Or they'll say, since I hit menopause, or since I started this job, or since I got married, I gained a lot. I wish I had a leaner body. Or since I've developed this issue or arthritis or my car accident, I don't move right and I would like to be able to move better. we could add a few words onto all of these wishes and we would be accurate, like I used to. Thank you for giving me my life back. They have a memory of what excellence was, and they want to get back there. The
Correct.
primary reason is they know it felt great. So really, that's what they want. They want to feel great about themselves, about their life, about their relationships, about their family, and they believe that if they can bring about this change, they could get back to being like they used to. We cannot heal anybody. I've been really immersed in the field of stem cells lately and just understanding what the human body is capable of in terms of regenerating. But it really is fascinating to think that you can cut your skin and then it heals. You can break your bone and it heals. You have an innate ability to heal, to be as you were before the injury. But what happens over time is, as people's systems become corrupted, mostly by lifestyle decisions, they lose parasympathetic recovery. They lose the ability to heal. So if you're going to be a healer, you will not heal anybody. You will simply help them restore that power. That's the true miracle. That's what we can do for people. When they say, I want to be the way I used to, we can't make it happen. We can guide them forward so the innate systems that used to work efficiently begin to work again. So if we're going to help people in pain get back to a place where they're feeling great, then we need to realize all we have to do is restore what's already there. We have to bring them back to what we all learned about, homeostasis. It makes perfect sense in a textbook, where after an adrenal escalation, everything comes back to balance. But most people are so adrenally stressed, they haven't been in homeostasis in years or even decades. As a result, their metabolism is compromised. If they have an autoimmune issue, we need to empower them to restore their innate immune intelligence. I said inflammation is the root cause of all disease. We need to clear the interference so that they can restore their own ability to reverse inflammation. So when we really look at what we as people are capable of, if we will be the catalyst or the facilitator that makes it happen, we sit in this beautiful, opportune space between fitness and medicine. And I'll tell you this, when we talk about income potential, I honestly have to say the sky is the limit. Now you're seeing me zip through slides because I do want to some Q&A. And what I will tell you is this is all part of the course that we started talking about. I created this course for one reason, because I want to give trainers power. That's the only reason. I didn't need to do this. It is 8 hours, and in the 8 hours, it covers mindset to a high degree, but it also gets into specifics. How do we reverse inflammation? What is that worth? What changes do we help people make? How do we alter their psychology? How do we influence people? How do we choose our avatar? So it's an 8-hour course that will really lead you to a complete and total career change. So Evan, if you want to bring it to questions right now, I'm wide open.
Absolutely. And as a benefit of being part of our community, the Integrative Movement Insider community, Phil has graciously offered to have you preview the course, the first module of the course, where it really goes into the mindset of what we are doing as fitness professionals, what you're doing as fitness professionals, and the opportunity that exists. And he gives you a challenge. I don't know if you want to give them the challenge right now or save it for that first module, but he really gives you a challenge. And the challenge is to help create a mindset shift, and that you can automatically, I should say automatically, you can, as soon as you listen to that first module, you can dramatically increase your income that very first month that you listen to the first module. If you get over your own barrier, which is right up here, your self-belief of what you are worth. So I don't know if you want to share that or you want to wait for them to actually view that first hour.
I'm tempted because you asked me to, but I really think it will better serve them if they watch the build up to it. So
okay.
They're getting that hour free. And by the way, if they opt to sign up for the course, it's a $500 course. Evan has convinced me that we should reduce it to a low number. And I said, how about 249? And he said, lower than that. So anyway, here's where we landed. The lowest, this course has never been sold for this price, honestly. So 147 complete for a course that is guaranteed to increase your income. I don't want to put a number on it, but exponentially, without limit.
So I just want to bring up a couple of points. And I want to recognize something that's actually on this webinar. My friend and integrative movement specialist, Julie-Ann McGreedy, she's on this call. So thank you for being on. I really appreciate it. How are you? Julie-Ann came through our integrative corrective exercise instructor program in Florida, which we're going to be next week doing that conference again. And then she was convinced after she came through the 3 days that she's like, I need to do your year-long certification. So just like Phil has been talking about in this webinar, you want to, even though we have our lower barrier offer, so we have our free information here on our website. We have our lower introductory course that's about $600. We also have our year-long intensive, which is about $6,700. So there's different levels for different levels of immersion. So exactly what Phil's talking about. You can sell, a weekend, a 5 package, a 10 package, and people will get great information if you educate them and empower them. But the deeper they go into your system, the more they invest in your system and the process, the better their results are going to be. And I just want to share a story that Julie-Ann shared with me, and I hope you don't mind, Julie-Ann, and obviously there's no names involved. So Julie-Ann shared a client story. Julie-Ann works with the older population. It's completely referral based. She charges a lot of money for her services. She doesn't apologize for her services. But one of her clients had urinary incontinence. And this is very common as people get older. So a very medical condition, and medical doctors have medications, but there is no solution, okay? I mean, from a medical standpoint. Julie-Ann was working through the coursework. She's about halfway through the coursework, and she was teaching her a very simple process. Breathe, activate, use your pelvic floor, just breathe down to your pelvic floor. She wasn't trying to fix the pelvic floor or incontinence. And the woman's like, you know what? I used to have to change, I wear pads. I used to have to change my pads 4 times a day. And within a few weeks to a few months, she had zero incontinence after a few months of working through this process of using these simple principles, but working through the process of it. It wasn't, Julie-Ann wasn't promising I'm going to get rid of your incontinence, but using a very systematic approach. And can you imagine the value to somebody's life if you're able to deliver those kind of results to them? I was wearing 4 pads a day. Now I'm wearing 0 pads. The confidence, and as you were talking about, Phil, her life is completely transformed. She can go out, wear the clothes she wants to wear, not have to worry about going to buy pads. It's just a confidence it gives somebody back to not know when they cough, sneeze, laugh, exert force, bearing down, that they're going to leak or wet their pants. I mean, what an ability. And this is the space that you're essentially talking about. Is we're not saying we don't need medical doctors, because we refer out to medical doctors, you refer out to medical doctors, you work with medical doctors, we do as well. We have nutritionists that we work with to cover that aspect, because it's beyond my scope. It's not beyond my scope of practice, but I don't have the time and energy to do that when somebody is much more qualified to do that. So you have to develop your team. You focus on the things that you need to focus on, so that way you work in this collaborative space from where medicine is missing the boat and where people are leaving maybe physical therapy or chiropractic. There's a big gap in there, and that's exactly that blue zone that you're talking about, Phil.
Yeah. Yeah, and we could probably just go on for hours now with stories kind of ping-ponging back and forth, but that's exactly it, is we're giving people back what they used to have, and in many cases, they thought it was gone forever. Yep. So the truth is, Julie-Ann was the catalyst. She didn't fix the problem. She was the catalyst that empowered this woman to recognize just the power she has over the pelvic floor and able to do exercises.
Exactly.
The outcome is incredible, and that's what we should be seeing and hearing every single day.
Absolutely. So another question that came up, Phil, is.
And let me just add this in.
Sure.
Because you mentioned affiliating with doctors. I have 3 facilities, and every one of them is me and a doctor. We share that. And, this was an evolution for me. I wasn't in the medical space at all. I was purely in the fitness space. I myself went through a medical issue. And man, it taught me a lot about the medical field. So partnering with a medical professional is vitally important for instantly elevating your position. I don't say we're equal to the doctor, but I do say in the perception of the client / patient, we become the pivotal player in their allied healthcare. So they recognize the doctor as having special abilities and traits.
Correct.
But you, the trainer, are the one that they go to ask the questions. So I think it's really important to affiliate for a number of reasons.
Yep, exactly. And one thing I will add to that as well is, and actually I'll have you talk about this, Phil, is people say, well, I go to, see you, Julianne, thanks for being here. So I go to doctors and they don't refer to me. And part of the reason your doctor won't refer to you, or a doctor won't refer to you, is number one, is you haven't shown them any value. You haven't given yourself value to that doctor, and they don't know you from the trainer down the street. So can you just discuss that concept and how you can provide value, show that you provide value to the medical professional, the chiropractor, the physical therapist that you actually want to get referrals from?
Yeah, and it's funny that you asked, because I did zip through the slides, but let's see if I can get there. This was my last slide. Why should a physician connect with you? Trainers just get offended when the doctor says, okay, leave your card, and they have no interest. Why should the physician connect with you? They don't know anything about you. I pulled together a conference at the Javits Center in New York years ago. Half the room were doctors, accomplished doctors, half the room were trainers. And I had a panel up front of medical professionals. And I asked the question to begin, do you respect personal trainers? No, 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 no. 4 people on a panel. And then they gave their individual reasons why. One said, a trainer injured my knee. Another said, a trainer took a lot of money from my wife, making promises. So the perception of the trainer may in fact be justified. So if you walk in and go, I'm a personal trainer, doc, send me people. Why? The doctor has to learn who you are, what you do. So it initiates by you proving something to the doctor. The greatest thing you could do is get the doctor as a client. That doesn't happen overnight, but that's where it begins. All of the doctors I work with have been through my programs initially. And then they start to refer people, because suddenly they're not just a doctor, they're a person that had a need and found a solution. When I do seminars alongside doctors, it's great because we're standing on the same platform, but all of these relationships have to be cultivated. I have never walked into a doctor's office cold and said, will you refer me? And they said, sure. Never. It comes from a deeper relationship. So like any relationship, you have to cultivate it, and it takes time.
One thing I'll add to that, Phil, a lot of fitness professionals will say, can you refer me clients? And my bottom line is no, because again, you have to show me that you are somebody that's going to be of value to me and my patient, because who you refer to is a reflection of you. So the people I refer to, the fitness professionals that I refer to, are people that give me something. And what they give me is they give me a write-up. So here, this is what you can do to get yourself to stand out very easily. It's very easy to stand out to medical professionals. Is you have a client that's seeing a medical professional, you write them up a report. You say, this is what's going on with Mrs. Jones. This is her medical conditions. This is what her goals are. This is what I do. This is the process I'm taking them through. These are the short-term goals we set out. These are the long-term goals. You send that to the doctor. I'll send you an update in a month or 3 months, whatever it may be. You send the doctor another update. All of a sudden, your name starts standing out to that medical doctor. Like, every single time this client, my patient sees this fitness professional, I get a letter back. They probably won't even read it, but the fact that you took the time and sent them a letter, now you go introduce yourself. Hey, I'm Joe Blow, or Jane, and I train, I have my clinic down the street, my facility. We do very specific training for the older population. We specialize in people that have whatever, osteoarthritis, metabolic syndrome, whatever it may be. I sent you a few letters. Now the doctor's like, oh yes, I remember getting those letters from you. They're not getting letters from any other fitness professional. It's so easy to stand out. So if somebody doesn't
they're not getting that from other doctors either. They'll refer people to a podiatrist, but they don't get those letters. So you stand out not only among trainers, you just stand out.
Exactly. So it's actually very easy. You just have to do your due diligence, exactly like Phil said. It's not going to happen from day one. You just have to be consistent. Some doctors, you'll find the right doctors. You don't need a lot. You just need 1, 2, 3 of them, and your schedule will be full with more clients, and you'll be able to charge more because, again, the referrals will be coming from a respected authority, and now you can really start to differentiate yourself from everybody else in the industry. All right, so Phil, we're out of time. I want to thank you.
I know we're almost out of time. I have one more thing I want to share, just because this isn't obvious to trainers, because we've always put doctors on a pedestal, and we assume. Are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. We assume that they're making all the money they need. However, with Obamacare and all of the changes, there are many medical offices that have dead treatment rooms in the back, wasted space. The doctor's not making the money he or she used to make. And if we can bring them an added profit center, they will open their arms and hand us the key. And I'm not kidding. I think when a trainer understands the true opportunity right now, it's never been this way before. It doesn't only have to be about getting referrals. It could literally turn into a partnership.
Absolutely.
So again, mindset, I want you to see the opportunity is greater than ever. Only those who are willing to be pioneers and step into this space will capitalize on it right now.
And thank you so much for bringing that up, because another person that came through our 3-day level course, she got an opportunity to, a chiropractor reached out to her because she was impressed by the information and the strategy she was using with her patients. She's like, I have an extra treatment room, exactly as you're talking about. Can you come in here 2 days a week? She's now in with that chiropractor. Now she's getting referrals from the chiropractors. People see her in the office. Again, you don't have to sell people anymore. They see you. They know, hey, you're affiliated with Dr. Osar or Dr. Jones. I trust you because you obviously have a different skill set. You're up-leveling. It really is, these opportunities are out there. They're so abundant. It's just that trainers aren't thinking bigger, and that's really the goal of this webinar. And that's why I really appreciate you sharing this information, Phil, and sharing that first hour of your course, Profit, Power, and Permission. We'll make sure you guys get that link and have access to that. And if you feel that there's lots of value in it, and you will have value from that first module, then we'll invite you to purchase it. And again, it's a very low price and a very generous price. So we appreciate that, Phil.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to hang out with you and your people. And I would love to get feedback, not on today, but for those who do go through the hour or the entire course, please share your experience with me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Phil. Thank you for everybody that's on, either live, and if you're watching this on recording, thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next time at Integrative Movement Insider. Make it a great day. Get out there, value yourself, and let's go transform lives. Make it a great day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.